Ever thought about how the old land of Palestine came into being? This story starts thousands of years ago, in a place known as the Levant, where the Mediterranean Sea meets the desert. Palestine, sitting between the Jordan River to the east and the Mediterranean Sea to the west, is a place full of stories from the past. Its story starts with the Canaanites, the ancient people who lived in this area around the 4th millennium BC. They built towns, set up trade paths, and left behind a rich cultural heritage that we can still see today. But as time went on, Palestine's important place made it a target for invading forces. The Persians, led by Cyrus the Great, took over the area in the 6th century BC. They were followed by the Greeks, who brought their own way of life, and then the Romans, who left their mark on the land. And we can't forget the Byzantines, whose influence we can still see in Palestine's buildings and art. They were in power until the 7th century AD, when a new group rose in the east, the Islamic Caliphate. But that's a story for another time. Each of these groups of people left its mark like layers of paint on an old wall painting, creating a colorful and varied past. They built towns, put up monuments, and told their stories through the land. And through all this, the people of Palestine adapted, survived, and thrived. So, you see, land of Palestine is more than just a spot on a map. It's a living, breathing reminder of thousands of years of human history. It's been shaped by many hands, from the ancient Canaanites to the powerful Byzantines. It's been a meeting point of cultures, a battlefield for empires, and a home to people who refuse to be forgotten. So, the land of Palestine has been home to different groups of people, each leaving its mark on the rich tapestry of its past. What happened when the Islamic and Crusader armies came in? Go back in time to the 7th century. Palestine was under the control of the Byzantine Empire, which was a continuation of the Roman Empire in the east. But change was coming from the Arabian Peninsula. The Rashidun Caliphate, led by the successors of the Prophet Muhammad, started their Islamic takeover. By the year 638, they had taken control of Jerusalem. This was a huge change. The Rashidun Caliphate brought a new form of rule and a new religion, Islam, which began to become a part of Palestinian society. Arabic became the main language, replacing Greek and Aramaic, which were spoken before. The Islamic rule also brought better farming, trade, and city development, laying the groundwork for a successful civilization. Now, let's go to the 12th century. The Crusaders, a mixed group of knights, nobles, and peasants from Western Europe, started a series of religious wars. Their aim? To take back the Holy Land from the Muslims. After a long and violent campaign, the Crusaders set up the Kingdom of Jerusalem in 1191. The Crusader period was marked by a mixture of cultures, as Western European, Byzantine, and Islamic traditions came together. The Crusaders built big fortresses, set up feudal systems, and left a lasting mark on the region's building styles and city landscapes. But their rule was often cruel, marked by religious intolerance and violence. But the Crusaders' control over the region was not to last. By the late 13th century, the Mamluks, a strong military group from Egypt, had got rid of the Crusaders, marking the end of their 200-year rule. The Islamic and Crusader times were a period of big changes in Palestine's history. These times brought about deep changes, shaping the region's cultural, religious, and political landscapes in ways that continue to echo through the centuries. So, how did Palestine change under the Ottoman Empire and later the British Mandate? From the 16th to the early 20th centuries, Palestine was ruled by the Ottoman Empire, a time that greatly changed the area's social and political ways. The Ottomans, a Turkish royal family, had a different way of ruling. They put in place a system known as the millet, which let religious groups rule themselves with their own laws. This system, while making things seem peaceful, also made religious and ethnic groups more divided. What's more, the Ottomans' changes to land laws in the 19th century led to a lot of land being sold to foreign buyers, leaving many local farmers without land. This was a big disagreement that later became a major issue during the British Mandate. Moving on to after World War I, the Ottoman Empire fell apart and Palestine was taken over by Britain. The time of British Mandate was marked by a disputed promise known as the Balfour Declaration. In this promise, Britain said they supported a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, a land that was already home to mostly Arab people. This promise was seen by many Palestinians as a betrayal, starting fights between the Arab and Jewish people. The British, while trying to keep their promise to the Balfour Declaration and also respect the rights of the Arab people already there, faced many problems. Protests, strikes, and violent fights became common. By the end of World War II, things had gotten too hard for the British, making them give the problem to the newly formed United Nations. These historical times had a lasting effect on Palestine. The Ottoman rule, with its land changes and millet system, made social and religious groups more divided. The British Mandate, on the other hand, made these divisions worse by promising a Jewish homeland in a region with mostly Arab people. The Ottoman and British times made the social and political situation in Palestine even more difficult. Their effects continue to be felt in the ongoing conflict and the search for peace. But then, what makes the creation of Israel cause the never-ending Arab-Israeli fight? The story of how Israel came to be starts after World War II, when the United Nations suggested a division plan for Palestine. This plan was to split the land into different Jewish and Arab countries, with Jerusalem being looked after by an international group. The Jewish leaders said yes to this plan, but the Arab leaders and the Palestinian people said no. In May 1948, Israel was announced as a country, and the very next day, armies from 5 Arab countries, Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Lebanon, and Iraq, started a war. This war, called the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, or the War of Independence, finished in 1949 with Israel winning, and a big change in the area's map. This war made many Arab Palestinians leave their homes, a big event in history known as the Nakba, or Big Disaster. But the fighting didn't stop there. For many years, Israel and its Arab neighbors kept fighting in wars like the Suez Crisis in 1956, the Six-Day War in 1967, and the Yom Kippur War in 1973. These wars made Israel get more land, but also made tensions in the area worse. From on, the fight kept going, with times of heavy violence and temporary peace. Peace deals, like the Camp David Accords and the Oslo Accords, tried to stop the fight, but didn't work very well. The big problems causing the fight, like who should control Jerusalem, where Israel's borders should be, whether Palestinian refugees can go back home, and whether a Palestinian state should be set up, are still not solved. The making of Israel marked the beginning of a long and complicated fight in the area. What's happening with Palestine today in the middle of all this complicated history and politics? Right in the center of the Middle East, where different cultures meet, the story of Palestine keeps going. The situation in Palestine now is as complex as its past. The West Bank and Gaza Strip, 2 important areas in the Palestinian territories, are in different conditions. The West Bank, where over 2.5 million Palestinians live, is still under Israeli rule, but with different levels of independence. Here, the mix of Israeli settlements and Palestinian towns leads to a complicated and often stressful social and political situation. Meanwhile, the Gaza Strip, a thin piece of land by the Mediterranean, is home to nearly 2 million Palestinians. The political group Hamas has controlled it since 2007. The area has seen a lot of fights and conflicts, and the people living there deal with big economic and social problems. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict, a big part of Palestine's recent history, keeps going. Despite many tries at peace talks, the 2 sides are still fighting over land, identity, and history. The peace process, as hard to achieve as it is, keeps being a symbol of hope for an end to the long-lasting conflict. But one can't talk about Palestine without recognizing the strength and toughness of its people. Despite the problems and difficulties they face, Palestinians keep holding on to their rich traditions, from the old olive trees that are everywhere in the landscape to the lively art scene in cities like Ramallah and Gaza City. With its troubled past and present, Palestine's rich history and tough spirit keep fascinating the world. Its story, although filled with conflict and struggle, also highlights the never-ending spirit of its people and the constant search for peace and a better life. As we look to what's coming, the tale of Palestine keeps going, leaving a lasting mark on the world's history. Where does Palestine go from here? What does the future hold for this land, its people, and its complex history? As we gaze into the uncertain future, it's impossible to provide a concrete answer. However, the resilience of the Palestinian people and their unwavering hope for peace is a beacon that continues to shine. The world watches, hoping for a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and a peaceful coexistence. The youth of Palestine, a generation born into conflict, are a major part of the nation's future. They continue to dream, innovate, and strive for a better life, despite the challenges they face. Education is highly valued, and many Palestinians pursue higher education both at home and abroad, hoping to bring their knowledge back to help their homeland. Meanwhile, the international community continues to play a crucial role. Numerous countries and organizations around the world are advocating for peace and providing aid to Palestine. The question of recognition of Palestine as a sovereign state is still a contentious issue on the international stage, and it's a topic that will undoubtedly shape Palestine's future. As we look ahead, the story of Palestine is far from over. It is a nation steeped in history, culture, and tradition, and its people are fiercely proud of their heritage. Despite the ongoing conflict, the spirit of Palestine remains unbroken, and the hope for peace is a dream that continues to thrive. As we close this journey through Palestine's history, we are reminded of the resilience, strength, and indomitable spirit of its people. Their story is a testament to the power of hope and the human capacity for endurance in the face of adversity. If you enjoyed this journey through Palestine's history, don't forget to like and